This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Welcome to It's a Doggy Dog World. I'm your host, Liz Palaika, and with me today are my good friends Petra Burke.
Hello.
And Kate Abbott.
How do?
And as we're recording this, Hurricane Irma is battering, ravaging, beating up, tearing up Florida. We've all got friends and family in Florida. I know I've been checking the news often and Facebook often for safety messages that my friends and relatives are safe or that they've posted. It's a scary, scary thing. And of course, Hurricane Harvey was just a few weeks ago. So what we'd like to talk about in this podcast is an issue that all three of us have thought about, talked about previously, and because pets are such a huge part of our lives, and if you're listening to this podcast, they are to you also. Dogs, but not just dogs, cats, and other pets. I watched a video on Facebook this afternoon of a woman who brought her 2 horses through the house and into her garage. She said their shed, they don't need a heavy-duty barn in Florida, and their shed would be demolished.
I think somebody had brought their house in their living room or something. I'd seen that on Facebook.
Yeah, this woman...
I'd bring my horse. I thought about it. I thought, if I had something goes on, I'd bring my horse in my garage.
Yeah, she set up a wonderful stall in the garage. I bet her horses are not going to be happy to go back outside. But anyway, rescuing dogs from disasters is a huge thing now, and it's wonderful. Saving lives is absolutely wonderful. But transporting large numbers of pets from one area to another is more than just rescuing them after a natural disaster. It's become, and I hate to call it big business, but it's almost become big business for many rescues, and it's not without some dangers. Now, Kate did some research, and there were a couple of rescues in New England whose spay and neuter, the regions, the locales, their spay and neuter programs, their educational programs have been so successful that the number of pets in the local shelters is drastically reduced. And since education has increased to the point that people are encouraged to adopt rather than shop for pets, which is fine. I think there's a place for both options. But if people want to adopt and the shelter's empty, then the shelters feel like they need to get some pets.
They even have a term for it, retail rescue.
Oh, that's bad. I don't like that.
I know. But it's a number of this, mostly in the northeast or in the northern portions of the United States. There's been a big drive for spay and bigger, newer shelters. With all of that going on, that's absolutely wonderful. But that has reduced the number of strays in their area or relinquishments. And so they've got these wonderful, modern, big shelters with not enough dogs and cats in them. Whereas in the southern part of the United States, gross generalization warning coming here, but still, the numbers of spayed and neutered are not as high. So there are more unwanted dogs and cats in the southern states.
I think we've got cultural mores, educational mores.
Yeah.
There are some differences in the attitudes.
Yep. Weather's more conducive to leaving the animals outside. I don't know. There's all sorts of reasons.
Right. And that's not this podcast.
But what is happening is there's an oversupply in the south and an undersupply in the north, so they're moving them up north.
Here in Southern California, we see, especially San Diego, we see a number of rescues going down to Mexico and picking up dogs. Not cats so much, but dogs, and bringing them into San Diego, and I believe some go up to LA also. But in our training classes here, we see a number of dogs from Baja and Tijuana and other spots in Mexico.
Well, like we were talking earlier, our shelters are full of chihuahuas, and pit bulls or mixes of, and not a lot of people, that's just that breed may not fit their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of options at shelters.
Well, when we as in Kindred Spirits were looking for a potential service dog to train for someone, we went to numerous shelters
Yeah.
and Chihuahuas and Pit Bulls, and the pitties that we saw were not of the temperament that was needed for this particular
Or
job.
the height, actually.
Or the height,
Yeah.
yes. And no hate mail, please. We like pitties as well as any other breed, but when you're looking for a specific dog for service dog work, there are some characteristics that this dog needed to have, and we didn't find that.
One of them was he had to be tall enough to be leaned upon. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, needed a big dog.
So, yeah, there's a lot of reasons, I think, why it's done, even if we don't look at the commercial aspect of it that many rescues do. But we do have to realize that that's a part of it.
And retail rescue doesn't really tell the whole story because well, let me back up. I started looking at the results of animals being moved because of natural disasters, primarily Katrina and Harvey and Irma. And I was sort of stumbled into and was a little surprised by, this is an ongoing thing. This is moving from one area to the other. That became the surprise to me.
Yeah, I know it's been going on for a number of years.
I guess the numbers. There's a shelter, oh gosh, lost track. I think it was in Vermont. And, nope, Salem, Massachusetts. There we go. They adopted out in, before 2012, they were adopting out about 300 dogs a year.
So about one a day, almost.
In 2013, they adopted out 4,400. That's great.
Yeah.
3,300 came from out of state. That's a huge number. Now, most of the time, these are groups of volunteers. If it's like a Pony Express handoff package that are moving these pups and cats around. So it's not, I don't think anybody's making a lot of money off of this. There are, I'm sure, the occasional scammers, because I came across plenty of warnings about,
Yeah.
Right.
buying a dog in another state.
There are some rescues that take advantage of people's heartstrings. Not
Yeah.
all. No hate mail, folks, but there are some.
And there's been programs like, I watch National Geographics or Animal Planet, and there's been stings operations with these people that have been caught. Yeah.
Right.
So they're out there, and it's pretty sad.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be wonderful someday that we don't need shelters anywhere, right? But
Well, then you wouldn't be able to say adopt, don't shop. So it's a double-edged sword. I think in some regions, the educational program of adopt, don't shop is so successful that they're putting themselves out of business. And that's not good. It's not bad, but it leads to the shipping in of dogs from other areas.
to meet the need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one of the problems, well, there's several problems, and we're going to discuss a number of them, is when they're bringing in dogs from other countries. There's been shipments of golden retrievers from Turkey. There's been shipments of dogs from, and I'll say this with an asterisk on either side, meat farm dogs from Asia, from several different places. And I put the asterisks there because I don't know how much we know that these were actually meat farm rescued dogs, or were these dogs strays from the street, or were these dogs from shelters there. We don't really know. But shipments of dogs that are labeled for the potential, to tug at the heartstrings of the potential adopters as meat farm dogs. So there's stuff, and then to Mexico, for those of us in the Southwest.
So it's true for people that as we are able to move more freely about the planet, so do the diseases and parasites that travel with us.
Right.
And that's the same with our puppy dogs and cats. So whether it's from the south to the north or from another country into the United States, there is an increased risk of disease and parasite transmission. Which doesn't mean we can't do it, but we need to be aware of it.
We've been keeping in touch with the local veterinarians around us because of the resurgence of various canine flus. And I had heard, and when I was talking to our veterinarian, she confirmed it, that a group of dogs that came into LA from overseas, from Asia, brought a variant of the canine flu with them. Thankfully, either a veterinarian, a vet tech, or one of the rescuers, she didn't know exactly who, recognized it, and that whole group of dogs was quarantined. So it didn't get out, it didn't escape from that group of dogs. But what if somebody wasn't that quick?
Yeah.
The canine flu could have been loose in Los Angeles like it is in many other parts of the country. And that could have been a new variant. We could have had multiple. So there's a problem.
One of the things that gave me the idea for this whole topic was a posting on Facebook. And there is no who said it. There's no, and I haven't been able to trace where the statement came from.
But it's been widely shared. I've seen it a few places.
Supposedly it is from a vet in the Texas area, and he is just wanting to share with the other dog owners and veterinarians that these dogs that are being evacuated from Houston, that everybody needs to be aware that Houston was in the midst of an outbreak of the H3N2, which is a flu virus for dogs, when Harvey hit. And I haven't been able to verify that either, but it's not without possibility. Parvovirus is low grade there, according to the statement. 80% of the dogs in that area over the age of 6 months, so it is claimed, test positive for heartworms, and I believe that in a heartbeat, no pun intended. And then it goes on to say, we also have a lot of leptospirosis, heterobilharzia, that's blood flukes.
A parasite.
I had to look that up. Occasional case of, and I may not pronounce this right, pithiosis, which is a water mold. I'll call that a parasite, because it gets into the lungs and intestines. Even Chagas, which is transmittable between people and animals and insects that way. So whether this is completely accurate or not, it made me think about transmission and carrying things from one part to the other. Doesn't mean we shouldn't do it, but to take those extra time to be a little more, and something like heartworms, that's become more and more constant throughout the United States.
Well, it became a problem throughout the United States when dogs were moved.
Exactly.
No, it was in the southeast.
And it's still going to have the highest predominance in areas where there are the mosquitoes, because they carry it.
And where there's no winter freeze.
Yeah.
Right.
But we never used to have it here in Southern California.
Yeah.
I remember when Paul and I got orders back to Washington, D.C. with the Marine Corps. We rented a house in Northern Virginia, and our neighbor saw our 2 dogs and said, "Did you start heartworm preventative?" Did I start what?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I sounded like an idiot, but we didn't have it in California at all.
Well, and years ago, 20-odd years ago.
Well, I'm not counting years either.
When I was a vet tech, we had the local community, but we also had a number of clients from a very wealthy community in San Diego called Rancho Santa Fe. And they travel a lot with their pets.
Mm-hmm.
The first cases of heartworm that we saw in our clinic here in San Diego came out of Rancho Santa Fe.
Yeah, our first cases came from Camp Pendleton.
There you go.
Yeah.
Traveling around.
Traveling, yeah.
And they're now preventative. So if people know this, then they can start doing the prevention. If the vets know that the dog is from an area that is subject to this blood fluke, then they can be more aware of the symptoms to look for. If you're not thinking of endemic diseases in your area as being these things, then you may not look at the symptoms the same way as a vet.
Well, the ASPCA has policy and position statements on animal transport for adoption, and I think if this could be, whether you believe in the ASPCA or not, whether you have problems with their policies or not, or their fundraising or whatever, these are good
Guidelines.
Yeah, these are good guidelines.
Yeah.
For one, animals must be examined by a veterinarian, must be in good health, vaccinated, dewormed, and treated for external parasites. Animals crossing state lines must have health certificates issued within 5 to 7 days of transport. Many states already have those. I know California does. That doesn't necessarily mean that when you cross the border into California, somebody's checking. They always ask if you have fruits and vegetables, but they don't always check for the animals. But many states already have these as law, and I think if this could be enforced, if rescues and shelters and transports would adhere to these, That would cut down on a lot of problems. Second, animals who need extensive medical treatment during transport should not be transported, nor should any animal with a communicable or infectious disease, nor any pregnant animals. That doesn't say there's exceptions. It says no.
And I'm thinking of all of these wonderful volunteers. I know there's a couple on my feedbook page that they're always posting pictures. Oh, I have this puppy dog overnight, and tomorrow I'm going to travel a couple of 100 miles and pass it on. These are animal lovers, so they have their own as well.
Yeah.
I want, for their good-heartedness, that these animals to be safe for them to transport.
Yeah.
For their own homes.
But you also have to think, they could be picking something up from just overnight stay that they may not have ever had before. So
when they go through
15
ways. Different hands. Sure.
Yeah, it could be a two-way street too.
Dog could have ticks that jump off in the house.
Mange mites.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, we need to take a break for our sponsors, so hold on. We've got a lot more to talk about when we get back.
Sit. Stay. It's a Doggy Dog World. We'll be right back after a short pause. Well, 4 to be exact.
Hanukkah, the German Shepherd that I rescued, was stinky, skinny, and scrawny, full of skin rashes and scratching. And I started feeding Hanukkah Dinovite, and he became such a happier, itch-free, stink-free dog that I dug deeper into the website.
DINOVITE.com.
What if, in addition to Dinovite, we do the raw beef and the egg diet and see what happens? Forget all these 50-pound bags of formulated, extruded, processed cereal bits that cost a ton of money anyways. This dog's as close to a wolf as you can get. They're carnivores. With just the raw meat and the eggs and the Dinovite and Super Omega on top of it, it just balances out his body and his mind and his spirit. It's unbelievable. Hey, if you're thinking about rescuing a dog, you got to start them out on Dinovite, DINOVITE.com.
859-428-1000. DINOVITE.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com. We know you're begging for more. So back to It's a Doggy Dog World with your fetching hosts, Liz Palaika, and this week's co-hosts, Kate Abbott and Petra Burke.
Welcome back to It's a Doggy Dog World. This is your host, Liz Palaika, with my good friends Petra Burke and Kate Abbott. Number 3 on this list, animals should be behaviorally assessed. Aggressive or excessively fearful animals should only be shipped if the receiving shelter offers a training rehabilitation program and is committed to working with the animals. We know they don't do this.
Yeah.
We see the end result, people calling us for help. I know a lot of the animals we see come up from Mexico have problems.
Yeah.
You know, if they've been astray on the street, they've been kicked, yelled at, rocks thrown at,
Driven off.
driven chased. Most of them have, or I should say, it's very rare that they don't have issues, including a lack of trust in people.
There's another thing that sparked this topic for me was watching on the news a plane load of dogs and cats arriving, I think it was in Illinois, ahead of Harvey, and watching them come out of the crates. They were terrified. And not say we shouldn't do it, because obviously that was saving their lives. But they're going to need additional help to get over that trauma.
Yeah.
And
be
with
aware of that.
with Harvey, I think we should clarify, most of the animals that have so far been shipped out from the aftermath of Harvey have been to clear the shelter so that animals rescued from the floods could be put into those places, so owners could hopefully find their animals again.
That was a lesson learned from Katrina.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
so the ones that are being flown out, driven out, however transported, are adoptable
Right.
animals.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas,
And I did see you mentioning, because I had seen that too, where the dogs were fearful, and I heard of a shelter director who was she made it very clear that these guys, when she gets them into her shelter, they will have a couple weeks or so, depending, downtime, veterinary, the whole 9 yards,
Perfect.
spay, neutered, everything before actually being available for that, which I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Great to hear, because they are terrified.
yeah. Unfortunately, some of the rescues, and we should put this out here, we're not anti-rescue.
Yeah.
No.
We've all rescued. We've all
Yes.
adopted rescues. We're not anti-rescue. We would like rescues to do it better. But I know watching a shipment of dogs and cats and kittens come into San Diego just in the last few days from Harvey. The banner on the bottom of the screen, these animals will be available, blah, 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 like in days, like in 2 or 3 days. And they had everybody walking, instead of carrying them in carriers, they had people pulling them out of carriers and showing the camera this cute little puppy and this adorable dog. And like you say, a lot of them were scared to death.
Yeah.
So they've already been moved, massive transport, car or plane or whatever.
Right.
They've probably not been used to. And then they arrived at cameras and all the commotion. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
probably some of that is needed so that people will adopt. But gosh, right at that moment.
Yeah, I was cussing at my TV screen.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I know they were getting the publicity, they were tugging at the heartstrings, help get these animals
It's like a
adopted.
fine line.
Yeah,
It's-
there's a
it's-
real,
It's tough.
there's a fine line. Are you doing right by this animal to do this? But yet, yes, you want to publicize it. But you know what? Even if you came back in 2 weeks, we're not going to forget about Harvey. If these shelters or rescues then went on camera and said, this baby's been with us for 2 weeks, he's spayed, he's neutered, he's healthy, he's had his shots, he's been quarantined.
Guess what? We know a little bit more about his personality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 This one does
got
good
that
with other
going.
dogs. This would be better an only dog. This one's great with cats. This one not so much. This one loved when I brought my kids to the shelter. He kissed them all over. Yeah. I mean, it would just be so much more fair to the animal. But
Because you want to place them in that forever home. It helps if you know their
And sometimes
personalities.
I hear people complaining. There's a rescue group in the area, and they're like, it was 15 pages I had to fill out and hours of interviews before they'd let me adopt a dog. And I'm like, well, yeah, they may be a little bit over the top, but still they have a very low, what would I want to say, recidivism?
yeah, failure rate.
Failure rate.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
of that. Because
Right.
they know the dogs and cats' personality, and they do take time to match them.
Right.
One dog, one cat does not fit all sizes.
Yeah.
So the more they know, the better.
Right.
Some of the other suggestions from the ASPCA, obviously, I should say obviously, maybe this needs to be said, but receiving shelters must have sufficient space for the pets that are coming in without displacing any healthy or treatable animals from their own communities. Copies of pet health records and behavior assessments should be transported with each individual animal.
Did you notice that too? They were showing that each of the crates or kind of whatever they were transported in had, in this one I would look at, it had blue
Folders taped to the top.
about that animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was good
Great.
to see. Yeah.
Animals should wear identification. Transport vehicles must be cleaned and disinfected between shipments. I bet most volunteers who are running 1 or 2 dogs for a rescue don't do that.
I have seen so many pictures of this woman who does this with the dog sitting next to her on her car seat.
Yeah.
I really, really doubt that
Yeah.
she's disinfecting in between.
Yeah.
She's not had a problem so far, I'm sure, but
Knock on
it
wood.
only takes once.
Yeah. I mean, I fostered kittens, and the
Yeah.
incidences I've had of kittens come in with disease, it's scary. At least half of them. At least half. And boy, I've scrubbed my cat room down. Last
We
time
know.
I bleached
Yeah,
it.
we hear about it. I know you do.
Another recommendation, shelters must have a spay and neuter and education program in place. I think most shelters do. I
Yeah.
don't know if all of the importing rescues do. So those are some of the primary ones that the ASPCA has. And I think they're good guidelines. It would be nice to see if more rescues could implement those.
And apparently nobody's tracking the numbers. Even the U.S. Department of Agriculture doesn't track how many dogs are transported across state lines. I mean, how would they? But being aware. And we've been talking about medical and a little bit about emotional. And if you adopt one of these dogs or cats, but more especially the dogs, I think, because we take them out in public, give them some time to adjust.
Yeah, to the new home, new people.
We typically tell our students that a newly adopted dog needs at least 3 months. A dog who's gone through significant trauma could need 6 months. My 2 cats that were originally caught in a feral cat colony, even as kittens, I've had them 2 years now, and they still show a really strong flight response. Anything is new or scary or whatever, poof, which is why they don't go outside other than the very secure catio.
Right.
Their favorite thing is under the bed, and I'm good with that. If they get scared, if they can be comfortable under the bed, that's awesome. But they've been with me for 2 years, and they still have that. My last house sitter, when I went on vacation, never saw the 2 white cats.
Right.
I don't think she believed me. She thought Kirk used the litter box a lot and ate a lot of food, but she never saw the 2 white cats. So, yeah.
And on a personal note here, this is just me. I do believe in adopting from shelters when it's appropriate for you and the dog.
Yeah?
But please do not put that brand on them for the rest of their lives.
Oh, let's not. Let's not.
Yeah, that's...
Once you adopt them,
A lot of weight on their shoulders.
it's not, they don't need to carry all that baggage. We have, all 3 of us at various times have made the comment to students with a dog that is forever labeled, he's a rescue dog. No, he's not.
And that's why he can't do A, B, C, D,
Right.
E. No.
No, he's your dog, and
He has a new life.
he has a new life with you. It's a fresh beginning.
Yes.
And he doesn't need to carry that.
I think we even
Yes.
did an entire podcast on that whole subject, so
Yeah.
but
Probably did.
it's
Yeah.
still a big point for me.
Yeah.
My first dog of my own as a 19-year-old was a German Shepherd. He was a rescue. His litter was dumped alongside a road in San Diego County, and they were surviving off a roadkill. German Shepherd Rescue picked him up. I didn't label that poor flea-ridden, worm-ridden, sick puppy as a rescue all his life. No, he's my dog. And my gosh, he earned high-end trials at obedience trials. He earned obedience titles. He was a search and rescue dog. He was the first German Shepherd to go to the World Frisbee Championships. He had all these accomplishments. Never again did I call him a rescue dog. He was my dog.
I prefer the term they're survivors.
Yeah?
Smart enough and strong enough to have survived what they've gone through, and now we'll celebrate that.
Right.
There you go.
Right. So, yes, dogs need rescuing all over the world. Let's just do it a little smarter.
Yep.
And our
Just
thoughts
be
and
a
prayers.
wise adoptee.
Yes.
Our thoughts and prayers with all the people and animals in Harvey and Irma's paths.
And any
Yeah.
future any future disasters to come. The wildfires
Fires, yeah.
in the Northwest, and knock on wood.
Yeah, we'll probably see animals from that too eventually.
Yep.
Unfortunately, west to east coast.
Yep.
We'll see.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Having a rough day? Longing for the dog days of summer? Think your fun furry friend lives a dog's life? Well, find out everything you're begging to know as Pet Life Radio presents It's a Doggy Dog World with pet expert and award-winning author Liz Palaika. Every dog has his day, and you'll find out how to make your dog's day fun and rewarding every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.